All right, here we are assembled again and happy to be here. It is Monday, April 29th, around 7 p.m. Eastern. And well, you know who I am. I don't know if I'm talking to our live audience or trying to also incorporate our recordings audience, because we do get some people that view our recordings. And I did say welcome to ACIM Talks, but it reminds me, I had someone tell me, I like the Tuesday night thing, but your Monday night stuff, a lot of times it's over my head. And so I said, well, maybe we're living up to our goal, right? Because we're kind of going to the next level as experienced Course in Miracles students. So maybe we're deeper than we think, right?
Mm-hmm. I'm loving it.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Anything y'all want to say tonight before we get into our agenda? Okay. Hopefully you've got everyone has it. Ron is back. I hope you see where we are. And
yes, I do.
we spent so much time last week on the Oracle text reading in A Course in Miracles. We didn't make it to our study of unity and A Course in Miracles. So I kind of reversed it on this week's agenda to make sure we get to it. With that said, let's do our readers. Kathleen 1, Joan 2, Dee is 3, Ron 4, and I'll be reader 5. And we are on page 3, A Matter of Semantics.
Mm-hmm.
So without further ado, Kathleen, let's get into it here.
Sure. A matter of semantics. Admittedly, the two teachings use different words to express their thoughts, perpetuating a belief that the teachings are different. However, these differences can actually serve to bring greater clarity to both teachings. When truly understand, the semantics difference fulfill a deeper purpose. We can use them to point the way to the change in consciousness we have longed for, a greater faith and understanding of God, absolute oneness as our true reality.
Now, undo the next couple of paragraphs, please.
Sure. For example, let's consider the term miracles. Leading teachers of unity, including Charles Fillmore, have stated there are no miracles. There are no miracles in science. Jesus did no miracles. All his marvelous works were done under laws that we may learn and use as he did.
Well, thank you. Comments so far?
I never knew unity believed that.
Believe what?
Yeah, about there are no miracles.
All right, so good thing we're reading this book, right?
Right.
Any thoughts about it? Is that okay with you now that it's been stated, or you disagree with that from your understanding of unity, right?
Yeah, well, A Course in Miracles says a miracle is a change in perception.
Yeah. Interesting. Joan, let's maybe read some more and come back to this issue and see what everyone thinks. Is that okay?
Okay.
Yeah, so who's next? You?
Yeah, I guess I am. Okay.
Okay.
Yet, A Course in Miracles continuously refers to miracles. Their application is an underlying principle to our awakening. In the principles of miracles, we find many examples of their meaning within the Course. For example, miracles honor you because you are lovable. They dispel illusions about yourself and perceive the light in you. They thus atone for your errors by freeing you from your nightmares. By releasing your mind from the imprisonment of your illusions, they restore your sanity.
You may as well do that next small paragraph, right?
Oh, okay. A miracle is a correction introduced into false thinking by me meaning Jesus. It acts as a catalyst, breaking up erroneous perception and reorganizing it properly.
Thank you. Comments? You learned anything?
Charles Fillmore was looking at miracles as more like a physical thing.
That's correct.
Yeah, rather than.
Well, I'll tell you what, I got to read a little bit ahead. Let's keep reading. I think he's going to talk about that.
Mhm.
Okay. Any other comments, though? All right. Who's next? D?
Yep. Many other statements in this section refer to the miracle as a correction in our minds, moving our thoughts and beliefs to a higher consciousness towards true spiritual awareness.
We don't have to hold to the one paragraph thing to mean the way this is written.
Okay. The
Please.
difference in the way the two teachings use the word is this. Unity statement addresses the traditional concept of a miracle that seems to relate to a change in a physical condition. And that's what Joan was just saying.
Yeah.
A Course in Miracles sees a miracle as a change in consciousness that can lead to a corresponding shift in one's physical circumstances. Both teachers emphasize that all healing occurs through moving one's mind to a higher consciousness of oneself. Their means of describing this differs only in wording.
You may as well finish.
A statement in the workbook for students addresses miracles in a manner more consistent with Unity's statement of awareness of a higher law. And it says, and thus it, a miracle, illustrates the law of truth the world does not obey, because it, our worldly view, fails to understand its, the miracle's ways. Throughout our book, you will find discussions about differences in semantics. We believe identifying and addressing these will provide a bridge between the two teachings, showing their means to direct readers toward the higher goal of spiritual awareness.
Important points. And are we getting at the same question you were asking about, Joan? You remember Unity speaking of a miracle. It had something to do with a change in physical conditions. I think Charles Fillmore's statement, though, says there are no miracles, there are no changes in physical condition. Isn't that what he meant in that statement back on page 3, where he says there are no miracles?
And he says Jesus did no miracle.
Yeah. What does that make y'all ponder?
That there's another way of looking at things in life. And can we accept this other way, or at least not be completely opposed to it, but think of it as, well, this is a possibility. This is something different from A Course in Miracles. And I think that's what we need to do in life, and what everybody on this planet needs to do is accept the differences in other people and in other anything, in other philosophies and other religions, whatever.
But what about the motivation for seeing things? Here, let's talk for a minute here. Unity seems to emphasize that there are no miracles. It's not a change. It's a change in how you see things. There are no physical changes. Okay, here's how I was seeing this situation. So now you go back, same situation, but you see it differently.
Mhm.
But you didn't change the situation, you change how you see the situation. How am I doing?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that makes sense. So, and
And,
that's the miracle, shift in perception.
and which
Yeah.
is the same as the Course says. And so while it's a different approach, the reason they're saying that is the same. I'm sorry, oh God. Let's try this, because look at oh boy, in the workbook, you know, those special themes. What is forgiveness? What is the world? I think it's 13. And real quick, let's see if I can put my hands on that and see if that can add to our understanding.
That is, what is a miracle 13? You're right.
Okay? So let me try and get to it. It says a miracle is a correction. It does not create nor really change at all. It merely looks on devastation and reminds the mind that what it sees is false. It undoes error, but does not attempt to go beyond perception. I'm getting a little bit askew of the particular point, but it says a miracle is not a thing. It is a correction. What do you think?
Mhm.
Yeah, correction in our consciousness.
So if it's not a thing, it's nothing. Yes? No?
No,
What is a correction?
a correction of my mindset.
Well, what does correction mean generally?
Replacing something I got wrong with the truth.
There you go. All right. So the miracle is a mechanism that's part of perception, not part of truth. It's going to be a tool. And
Yeah.
that tool is don't believe that crap, otherwise known as forgiveness. So it's not a thing other than a change in how I'm seeing things. Nothing changed except what?
My perception.
You see how unity, to me, unity and a course are saying, okay, there are no miracles, but it's a helpful tool to carry out this plan of salvation.
Mhm.
That's my take on it. I mean, I'm open. What do you think?
Sounds good.
Can we say there are no miracles because there are no things? Aren't all things part of the
The whole
illusion?
thing is a mistake, but I'll
Right.
use the tools you made, like supernatural, out of something that's higher than me can change things. That's what we call a miracle. Something, a bolt of lightning out of the sky that changes everything and brings world peace and all of that. Yes? Isn't that what most people, the kind of something supernatural?
Mhm. Yeah, that's the common understanding.
And they're both saying, no, a miracle is not creative, it's reparative. What you call a miracle changes what never was.
Mhm.
But for our purposes, we'll go with it. How are we doing?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
So
no, good job.
they both comment, Joe?
Yeah, I was thinking about, well, in the Bible, all the references to these miracles that Jesus performed. So unity kind of saying there's a scientific basis behind these things, or I'm a little confused about that.
Well, we're getting into something that let's talk, okay?
Hmm.
Approach it this way. Is there a Jesus?
Well, he's a historical figure.
Is part maybe of a mythology designed to bring us to salvation? Have you ever noticed in an evolutionary scale, even if you would, there have been certain characters that have had a profound impact on helping us to awaken? Yes,
Mhm.
no?
Yes.
Mhm.
Is there a Paramahansa? Was there ever a Paramahansa Yogananda?
Oh,
Or
yeah.
all these characters figments of a mythological story to help us awaken? Truth bringers that showed up in the illusion as part of the Holy Spirit's plan.
Yeah, they're part of the right.
Okay,
Right.
so oh man, let's see. There's a line in the Course that says Jesus was a man who awakened and realized his true identity, which was not a body.
Right.
Do you see why I'm starting there, Joan? It's
Yeah.
not, in my opinion, to denigrate or bring Jesus down at all. No offense. Thank you, Jesus. Yet there's something going on beyond Jesus that's really at the heart of what's happening. Who's getting a headache? Somebody, you know, if you don't follow me or disagree, I'm happy to let's talk.
Well, it makes sense if I'm, if I'm an illusion, then any body is part
Yeah.
of the illusion.
If
To help
all
us.
of it's, go ahead, dear, I'm sorry.
No, I'm done.
If all of it is an illusion, an illusion is an illusion is an illusion. The
Right.
only issue is, what is it for?
And that depends if I'm seeing it with the ego mind or with God.
Because the Holy Spirit has transformed the purpose of the illusion. It's still unreal, but now it's gone from the nothingness of unreality into having a mighty purpose. If you'll let it, it's answering our prayer. And there have been characters throughout, whether it's Jesus or Paul McCartney or Stevie Wonder or Earth, Wind, and Fire. These are all illusions, right?
Mhm.
But they're helpful illusions instead of unhelpful illusions.
So in essence, you can say the same thing about when Unity is talking about the laws. The laws are a helpful thing that's bringing us into our consciousness, whereas in Course in Miracles, the miracles are helping us go into our consciousness. So they're both going in the same direction, but coming from different places.
That's what I believe they're saying here, okay? And do you see why they're saying they see an overall agreement?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the approach
Mm-hmm.
is nuanced, you see.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I liked it. You?
That was
Yeah.
very well said, Kathleen. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Oh, you're
Thank you,
welcome.
Kathleen. So we're up to Ron. We're still on page 4. And let's do a little bit more before we transition here tonight. Ron? A bird's eye view, I
A
think.
bird's eye view of Unity and A Course in Miracles. The teachings of A Course in Miracles and Unity teachings are very compatible. In fact, we believe they are not only similar, but in many ways identical. A Course in Miracles and Unity share the same overall objective, realizing divine mind or Christ consciousness as the true reality. They differ more in emphasis than in substance. A Course in Miracles focuses on undoing the belief in our ego-based thought system, thereby opening our mind to divine mind or Christ consciousness. Unity's focus is on realizing divine mind and learning to choose the corresponding thinking over the ego or worldly-based thinking we have been used to. You will find more on this discussion throughout our material.
Well, could you just do the next paragraph at least, Ron,
Sure.
please?
Charles Fillmore recognized the distinction between absolute truth and relative consciousness, sense and race consciousness, excuse me. A Course in Miracles recognizes this as the distinction between knowledge, God's knowledge, and the ego-based perceptions of we use in our everyday lives. Both teachings focus on relinquishing relative consciousness, ego-based perception, by choosing to know and rely on God or Christ's nature. I can read the next one too, or no?
Well, maybe we should stop, because isn't this set up into the following chart? You see that chart that's coming up?
Mhm.
I think that next paragraph is only going to lead into a discussion of the chart. So can
Okay.
we take a minute on the other two paragraphs? What are your thoughts, guys? How come and they both here? It says, A Course in Miracles and Unity share the same overall objective. I started on 4 and now I'm on 5. Realizing divine mind or Christ consciousness as the true reality. How come they use the word realizing? And even when it goes down and talks about unity's focus, they use the word realizing. What does realizing mean, and why would they use that word?
To
Well-
me, it's come to, oh, go ahead,
Go ahead.
Kathleen.
Go ahead.
To me, it's coming to know it for myself, knowing the truth for myself.
Yeah.
So would it have been, how come they didn't say finding divine mind, or that unity's focus is on finding divine mind?
Because divine mind is always with us. There is no separation in the
And
oneness.
so it's not something new.
No, we're just realizing something we already know that we forgot.
Do y'all see that, and why they use the word realize? It's not new. It's
Mm.
just that the approach to getting there differs. Charles Fillmore, to me, says you can get there by being aware of your divine mind and choosing that to override the relative mind. A Course in Miracles, to me, says if you relinquish belief in the relative mind, the divine mind will be there because you got rid of the block. Thoughts?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's a big difference. That's a big difference to me. That one is saying I need to remove the blocks to what's already there,
Mhm.
right? And
The other
that's
is
A Course
saying,
in Miracles. Yeah, and you're saying unity says I just need to think with the right mind.
correct. And to me, the Course is saying, in order it would to help with this, if you could remove the blocks, there are two different approaches.
Yeah.
One is focusing on the divine mind to manage the other one. And the other, in the Course in Miracles, the practice is to relinquish the other and thereby have the true reality show up. Comments?
The Course would even take it further and say that that's a spiritual bypass, the unity's way. Wouldn't it?
Well,
I mean,
you tell me, what do you mean by that? Explain that a little for us, please.
that we can't just bypass becoming aware of our ego thoughts. That's to me, that's the Course's teachings, that is a spiritual bypass, that it'll show up somewhere else in our life if we don't become aware of it enough to want to let it go.
And what is it in
The
context?
ego thoughts.
Okay. Yeah. To
That's
me,
a big difference.
significant, and yet they both end up in the same place.
Well,
Right, but the course would say they don't end, that wouldn't end up in the same place.
just where it says Course in Miracles undoing a belief in the ego-based thought system, thereby opening our divine mind to consciousness, and unity focuses on realizing our divine mind, learning to choose corresponding thinking over the ego. So they're both doing the same thing, but on different ways.
That's,
Okay, yeah,
to me, maybe it's a little harder to override the ego as opposed to letting it go. It's
I
a bit,
think,
would seem a bit more challenging on face, but go ahead, Kathleen.
well, I think if when you override it, it doesn't say how many times you have to override it. But when you override the ego, you're taking away the power that you give the ego.
Right.
So,
And yet for me, that would be harder as an activity. It's like, oh, it's more of, oh, I gotta challenge and control. Whereas for me,
yeah,
on face, it seems easier to let it go and true reality will be there. It's approach, isn't
yeah.
it?
Well, see, for me, overriding is you're just negating it. You're just, it no longer exists. It doesn't, we don't have to have a comment. We don't have to have a war with it. We
Right.
we can just let it go. When you override something, you let it go. It no longer exists. And the same thing where you're saying when you let go and let it release it. It's semantics.
Either way, it's nullifying the ego.
Right,
It's just a matter of approach.
right.
So maybe there's not much difference,
Right.
which is
No.
the point I think they've been making, which gives rise to a heading like a matter of semantics, you see.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I suppose the sentence that Kathleen's pointing out, where you're learning to choose the corresponding thinking over the ego, that would mean that you are aware of both and you're choosing. So that was helpful, that what Kathleen added, yeah. So it's not bypassing then.
No.
Okay.
To me, spiritual bypassing is taking a detour and not even addressing it at all.
Right. And here
But-
it's saying you're choosing, which means
Right.
you are aware that there's a
Right.
choice to be made
Right.
between the two.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And to me, that's how it goes. You remember positive thinking and things like that, and kind of ignore it approach.
Right. That's what I thought
Rather
this was
than
saying.
recognize it and then choose, knowing
Yeah.
where your power is.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Interesting, right?
Yes.
Thanks again for bringing this book to us, Kathleen.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're welcome.
I'm next, right?
You
Yeah.
are.
I'm sorry. I gotta do this. I'm sorry. I gotta do this in order to see if it'll work. Let's switch to our Oracle text reading,
Okay.
just to see if we can get to 2 to fit on a given night.
Yep.
Okay.
So when we come back, we'll be on page 5 next week, right? In Unity and the Course in Miracles.
Yep.
And so let's turn our attention to page 41 in the text. We are starting tonight on section Roman numeral 4, page 41. And our oracle text reading, we had the other two sections was atonement without sacrifice, and Roman 2 was miracles as true perception. Oh, and we did 3, perception versus knowledge. Why don't we just pick up? I don't see any need to go back through that at all. I'm the next reader on page 41. Roman numeral 4, error and the ego. The abilities you now possess are only shadows of your real strength. All of your present functions are divided and open to questions and doubt. This is because you are not certain how you will use them and are therefore incapable of knowledge. You are also incapable of knowledge because you can still perceive lovelessly. Perception did not exist until the separation introduced degrees, aspects, and intervals. Spirit has no levels, and all conflict arises from the concept of levels. Only the levels of the Trinity are capable of unity. The levels created by the separation cannot but conflict. This is because they are meaningless to each other. Oh, I love this book. It's like so deep. What do you think? Anything there? It says sentence 5, perception did not exist until the separation introduced degrees, aspects, and intervals. Yes?
Before the separation, all was one, so there
Yeah.
weren't any
No.
degrees.
So what do degrees, aspects, and intervals have in common?
Well, the word that came to my mind is fragmentation.
Yeah. The word that came to me is differences.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like when you say intervals, is that what time is?
Mm-hmm.
Degrees and aspects. How about aspects? Different ways of seeing things.
Mm-hmm.
And degrees, higher and lower, more and less. Aren't these all things that arise from the tiny bad idea?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's
Any other comments you have about where he's going here? Then we're back to Kathleen.
okay. Consciousness, the level of perception, was the first split introduced into the mind after the separation, making the mind a perceiver rather than a creator. Consciousness is correctly identified as the domain of the ego. The ego is a wrong-minded attempt to perceive yourself as you wish to be rather than as you are. Yet, you can know yourself only as you are because that is all you can be sure of. Everything else is open to question.
You know, I remember the first time I read that, I was a bit offended, or my ego was.
Mhm.
Which one? It says consciousness, the level of perception, was the first split introduced into the mind after separation. And then he says it could correctly be identified as a domain of the ego. Whoa. Are you
Yeah.
following that? And I mean, isn't that kind of saying I'm a bad thing, Jim? Or Ron or Joe, Kathleen D? Okay. I mean, isn't that the implication?
Mhm.
Mhm.
And yet, following the predicates that's being said about the repercussions of the tiny mad idea of separation, Jim shouldn't be conscious. Jim isn't conscious. What do you think? That was part of the mistake. That's what split. Go ahead, dear. I'm with you.
So what is the correction? What are we? We're not
One,
consciousness.
one consciousness, one universal mind with all unified goals to support everyone and everything, because it doesn't have levels and differences and degrees. It's all good. We all work with and for one another. It said, I am here to be truly helpful. I'm here to be the light of the world. I'm here to maybe share the message that all is one.
So in oneness, there's no consciousness is awareness, right?
It is, but there's no individual awareness.
Yeah.
Is it all knowing? Is it the all knowing instead of consciousness?
Well, when we did the Song of Prayer, and he talked about how the common definitions of prayer don't pray, and how true prayer is never about you. Yes?
Correct. Correct. Yes.
I think that's what being said here. It's like you're a thing. You're an individual, that you have a consciousness. So your prayers evolve into what's good for the whole. How can what can I do to improve the whole? Because that's what I'm a part of. My prayers aren't for Jim anymore.
Right. Absolutely.
Well, yeah, this is what as I'm processing this, is your consciousness is your consciousness in the illusion.
Mhm.
Because once you leave the illusion, you are no longer conscious, you just are. So your consciousness as you're progressing can change from ego to spirit mind,
Yes.
spirit led. So there's that change in the consciousness, but you're still in the separation, because when you're not in the separation, none of this exists.
So here's the thing. Your crap is not true, but being love, I'm going to make the best of what you've done. I'm not going to destroy your stuff. You made perception as a part of separation. But I'm not going to get rid of what you made, because you love what you made. So here's what I'm going to do, being love and loving. I am going to use what you made and repurpose it.
Exactly.
Now your individual consciousness gets pointed toward truth instead of maintaining and going deeper into illusion. That's why the Holy Spirit's here. I'm going to take the error you made, perception, right, is part of separating. It's an illusion because it's not true. And yet, I'm going to take that, and instead of the dreaming, the separation perception, I'm going to turn it to a joining perception and undo what you thought you did. How am I doing, ladies?
Mhm.
You
Go
know,
ahead, Joan.
as humans, we're used to using the word consciousness, and most people are, I think, in a different way. We think we're conscious of being being ego, maybe. Yeah, this is the way the world thinks of conscious. So this is a whole new way of looking at consciousness.
So I'm not going to trash your stuff. That wouldn't be loving, would it?
No.
I'm going to repurpose it so that what you made for death, I'm going to use to lead you to everlasting life. I'm going to use your mistakes and make them lessons. Or is Jim just crazy as usual on here?
No,
Just helpful? Yes.
the lessons are part of the progression.
I'm going to take what you made for a mistake and transform it into your way home. I'm not going to get rid of the illusion, the perception. I'm going to purify it so that where it used to go this way, now it'll go this way. You grateful?
Mm-hmm.
Of course, it's almost like learning a new language, you know?
Because the teachings of the world are apparently 180 degrees. How we define things are often in direct opposition to the truth, aren't they?
Mhm.
Yes.
Respect your individual rights. But you're not an individual. And the world would say, yay. And truth would say, nay. Do you see how radical these teachings are? But the thing that's beautiful to me is that they not only tell you what the problem is, but it offers a solution that is very loving. Let me be willing, let me start changing your perceptions until they start getting so high. You're at heaven's gate. You're almost awake. That's powerful to me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
More comments, questions? So are we back up to Joe? Or didn't Kathleen read? Yes.
No, I read paragraph 2, consciousness.
Right. So Joe, we're on 3 before we have to start wrapping up tonight.
Okay.
Yeah.
The ego is the questioning aspect of the post-separation self, which was made rather than created. It is capable of asking questions, but not of perceiving meaningful answers, because these would involve knowledge and cannot be perceived. The mind is therefore confused, because only one-mindedness can be without confusion. A separated or divided mind must be confused. It is necessarily uncertain about what it is. It has to be in conflict because it is out of accord with itself. This makes its aspects strangers to each other. And this is the essence of the fear-prone condition in which attack is always possible. You have every reason to feel afraid as you perceive yourself. This is why you cannot escape from fear until you realize that you did not and could not create yourself. You can never make your misperceptions true, and your creation is beyond your own error. That is why you must eventually choose to heal the separation.
I like it.
Hmm.
Wow. Shall we continue? Or you got questions? I think you got some questions.
This paragraph just made it so clear, the difference, the difference between oneness and the difference between the ego created confusion.
Yes.
It just, it was like, whew, okay, that's easy. That's easy enough to do. It's like,
Go ahead, dear.
it's just, it takes all the power out of the illusion that has been created, knowing that it has no power because it wasn't created.
Yes. It was all part of this tiny mad idea that you could be separate. It's like saying, I don't have to participate in the movement of the eclipse. Insane, right?
Mhm.
So sentence 9 says you cannot escape from fear until you realize that you could not create yourself. Effects have causes. Yes?
Mhm.
Most fundamental law there is. And to think that you did not have a cause is insane. Or maybe not. Who would agree at this point? Is it possible I was created for a reason? And it wasn't a tiny mad idea?
Yeah.
More comments on this paragraph. Well, let's see. We finished paragraph 3, right?
Yes.
So we'll start at right-mindedness.
Yep.
What are your thoughts about how it went tonight, since we're devoting our time to two studies here?
I enjoyed it. I think it went well.
Me
Yeah.
too.
It was easy to make the shift.
All right. Well, I enjoyed it too, and I'm gonna let you guys go, but the course, you know how it always says to teach is to learn. And do you know about this zone? Because it's where where I'm totally confident to come in here and talk to you guys, because in talking to you, I learned stuff that I didn't know I knew before.
Exactly.
I will step back and let him lead the way. I will trust. And sometimes I'm as amazed at what I say as you are, and then doubly amazed when I see like you got something of value from what I said.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going, me too.
Mhm, mhm.
To teach is to learn. So I'm
Yeah.
getting more comfortable with that. And I'm not as nervous as I used to be because I trust. And it's an evidence-based trust.
Mhm.
It's not hope in the sky, pie in the sky, by and by. I've seen this thing work. And the
Yeah.
more it works, the more compelling it becomes to trust it. So if you use it, see if it works, right?
Mhm.
All right. Well, I invite you to do your teachings this week for all the Holy Spirit sends to you. And as usual, I appreciate our coming together and you spending time here with us tonight, okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Jim, and thank you, everybody.
Yeah,
Thank you
good.
all. So I'm going to let you go, and I wish you a wonderful rest of the week, okay? Thank you.
You too.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Thank you. Have a
Namaste.
blessed week.
Namaste, y'all.
Yeah.
Yeah.